Michael, and he's pretty irritated. How are you, Sammy?
Michael from Florida. What's up, buddy?
Well, if there's a high-speed truck to step in front of right now, we're all going to volunteer to do that.
What happened? What's going on?
I'll tell you exactly what happened. I don't know how much time you got. Probably not a lot, but I'll give you whatever postmortem you want. Number one, obviously, the polls were skewed towards people who, even though they were likely voters, were not the people who were going to show up and vote or chose not to vote, depending on your point of view. For those who don't know, for any statewide candidate, and this includes the president, 08 and 12, you have to carry Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach counties by sufficient margins to offset the rest of redneck America. We are essentially three states in one down here. We are North Florida, which is essentially South Alabama and South Georgia. Central Florida, which is a moderate to, Joe Scarborough-ish wing of the party, moderate Republican, sometimes centrist, sometimes not, depending on who you believe. And then the South Florida, which is more progressive and more of an amalgamation. You have ethnic minorities down here. You have old ethnic New Yorkers. You have a lot of Northeasterners, and, you have a lot of young professionals. So they tend to vote more Democratic, especially. So you need to be able to get the Democratic vote out of here. The rest of the state voted about a 48.5% capacity, and that gave Scott a tremendous advantage. In order to win, Charlie Crist was going to have to pull an electorate somewhere in the 52, 53% turnout ratio based upon the votes that were cast around the rest of the state. So in other words, if you broke down the state breakdown and he got 53% of those votes from down here, he could have won. As it is, he lost by 76,000 votes, which sounds like a lot, and it really is comparing the fact that Alex Sink was a terrible candidate in 2010, lost by only 62,000 votes.
Wow.
So he didn't get enough. He didn't get enough of what he needed down here, and even if he'd gotten a statewide average, that wasn't going to be enough. He needed to surpass that, and he just didn't do it. Now, why is open interpretation? It's you and Cliff did a great job breaking it down. By the way, one of these days we'd all love to talk to the two of you together. I don't know if you could ever arrange that. Probably logistically it'd be a nightmare, but it'd be a real treat for the listeners. And for us, we'd love to talk to both of you. But anyway.
You mean take calls? Yeah, we could try that. We should try that at one point.
Let me just say this, Sam. If you want to know the real reason, there are 104 million reasons why Charlie Crist lost. Okay? Rick Scott spent $104 million in advertising and campaign costs to win by 76,000 votes. That's what it came down to. Every time there was a TV on, be it ESPN, CNN, MSNBC, the Lifetime Channel, Food Channel, Animal Channel, doesn't matter what it was.
You watch a lot of TV, Michael, it sounds like.
There was a Rick Scott commercial on there, and it was devastating. It literally painted Charlie as a flip-flopping, lousy governor who was in charge of when the state lost hundreds of thousands of jobs, of course, through no fault of his own entirely, and that now things were morning in America, essentially. And
what's going on in Florida that the Democratic Party can't get a candidate to run for two?
Because they suck and they're idiots. Mitch Caesar and the rest of these guys are morons. Right. You and Cliff hit it on the boat. I mean, you continue to nominate guys who can't win nationally. Charlie Crist lost in 2010 to Rubio, switched parties, and then became an Obama supporter in 2012. People aren't stupid, but because they felt that the nature of our state is such that you have to have a centrist Democrat or you won't get past Orlando to get a vote, they don't have a bench. There's nobody there. And I got news for you. It's going to get worse in the future. They reelected the Agriculture Commissioner, the Attorney General I talked to you about the other day, and the Secretary of State, all of whom were hardcore conservative Republicans. We're not going to get out of this malaise forever. Forever. There is no bench. I think Bob Graham's daughter won up in Tallahassee. That's who our future is. Somebody who won a state representative position up in Tallahassee. And the guy on the Treasure Coast ended up beating back a challenge to stay in the House of Representatives. It's just the way it is. There is no bench here for statewide candidates, and the statewide Democratic Party does not have the guts to sit there and say, you know what, we're putting forth a candidate that stands in back of Obamacare, stands in front of the Affordable Care Act, stands for, somehow increasing the minimum wage, stands for income equality, stands for women's right to choose, stands for increasing Medicaid, but they won't do that. They won't do it. They just sit there and insist on running these losers. And by the way, we make Martha Coakley look like Ronald Reagan, okay, with the people we choose.
Right.
Alex Sink, her late husband, the late Frank McBride out of Tampa, was terrible. The guy who lost to Charlie Crist in 2006 was worse. He was like a dead man, and you couldn't tell a pulse if he was on one. It's terrible. It's just the way it's going to be. And if you paper the state with the amount of money, still, in all that, if you paper the state with the amount of money Rick Scott did, $104 million.
Right.
Guys, I don't know.
It's like the second biggest industry in Florida, isn't it? Rick Scott's. It's like the second biggest industry. Well, I guess the good news is that the Democrats have an opportunity.
There is no good news.
Well, if they have an opportunity to
what?
develop gills, maybe they can be in charge of the subterranean southern part of Florida in 20 years.
I'm so irritated. Not only am I going to re-up my majority report membership, I want to see if I can increase it. We're just going to double down. Screw it. We're going to do what George...
You get the fanfare and the shofar simultaneously.
I love it. You know what? George Bush, after he got his tail kicked at 2006 midterms, you know what he did? He went for the surge in Iraq.
Yep.
And it didn't work, not really, not any historical measurement. But we're going to do the same thing as the surge down here. Screw those guys. They didn't win because of ideas. They didn't win because they had better, somehow a more appealing electorate. They won because people hate Barack Obama. And I'm just going to say it straight. They will not vote, and they do not like a black man in most parts of the state of Florida. Period. End of story. Number one. Number two, the president was a feckless campaigner, offered himself no opportunity to stand up and fight for what he believes. You and Cliff are right. Stand up for what you believe. Stand up for the fact that you're for minimum wage, that you're for a women's right to choose, that you're for the Affordable Care Act and helping people get coverage. There are 700,000 people down here who don't have coverage as a result of this moron in Tallahassee, this criminal who we elected, I can't believe it, a second time.
Yeah.
And he comes directly after my profession, and my brethren are absolutely petrified, and rightly so. I may be standing out there with a sandwich board eventually, but you know what? I am not going to sit here and let this guy ruin our state to the point where everything that's done and every wrong-headed idea gets papered over because he's got more money than the rest of us. It's just not worth it.
Well,
casino gambling should have been down here years ago. Disney and the money interests keep it away. Medical marijuana was sitting out there. It had 75% approval rating up until 2 months ago. And then Shibboletham comes in with $5.5 million, and it boots it down to 58%. We lose by, a point and a half. It's mad.
Well, Michael, listen, I appreciate you calling in, buddy. And
I love you guys. You guys are the best.
All right.
Keep fighting. Just remember one last thing, if I could, real quick.
Yeah.
Not everybody. The progressive nature of your ideas is wonderful, but there are some parts of the country which are going to think differently. Sometimes I think there is a west side of Manhattan, west side of Santa Monica type of theory and thinking that this is going to, play in every part of the country.
Well, Michael, that's what we have you for, right? I'll talk to the people. I hit my concentric circle, and then frankly, people out there got to take it from there. We all got our roles to play. I appreciate the call, Michael.